making sure that we take the time to ask our audience what they need, and then creating content that actually supports them is a part of that process as well. Feedback, number one, allows you to get better, but also allows the organization to see that you care, and you should care. You should want to know how you could get better in the future.
As for our audience, whether you're starting a new job, whether you're an entrepreneur or a coach, getting people out of their comfort zone, right, without them necessarily drowning. If you can find that sweet spot, you will always be the one who's delivering great content and really making an impact. Hey family, welcome to another episode of The Inspired House. I'm your host, Desmond Davis, and y'all, I got somebody real special for y'all. So y'all know how I'm always trying to do my thing and coach y'all. So I figured, why not be a good coach, a good big brother, good cousin, good mentor, whatever you see me as. Why not be a good that and introduce you to my coach? So I want to present to some and introduce to others Coach Evolve Benton in the house. What up, Coach?
What up? Thank you so much for the invite, family. I am extremely thankful to be here, and I am so proud of you. Like, the space that you're creating for your audience is super powerful, and I just want you to know that, like, you're doing the damn thing. Keep it going. Keep it going, fam.
Yo, Coach, thank you for that. I appreciate that. I love words of encouragement. That's my love language. So anybody ever trying to get on my good side, tell me I'm doing a good job. So Coach,
okay. Good to know. Good to know. I'm going to write that down in my notes the next time we have our coaching session. Words of encouragement motivates Desmond. Powerful.
Yep. I love it. Yo, Coach, I appreciate you. So for my audience, it feels like I always say this to everybody that I interview. And I think, honestly, that's why I'm just in this podcast is just so blessed because of the people that we interview. I always seem to start with talking about my guests saying that they do a lot. And Coach, you really do a lot. You have so many credits and so many things under your belt in terms of being a public speaker, in terms of being a consultant, in terms of being a coach, in terms of being a trainer, in terms of being a filmmaker, doing major business and being a multiple six-figure speaker and coach and entrepreneur. And I mean, I'm a part of your program. And so I think you do so much. And I know there's so many people that already know you, but I'm excited for the rest of the world and even some of my audience to get to know you more and sort of what you have to offer and what you do. So if it's cool, I'm going to just hand it over to you and just tell us, how do you inspire? Tell us about you.
I love that. I love that. You know, I think what you're mentioning, Desmond, many of us do a lot because it takes a lot to get to your true authentic self. Right. And really what inspires me is getting closer to the greatest version of myself. And so many of those creative projects that you've mentioned have been pathways for me to get there. Right. So for folks who are watching, of course, I'm Evolve Benton, pronouns they are king, if you're feeling magical, or if you're feeling really, really aligned with royalty. And I started off my career, actually, Desmond, in the nonprofit sector, believe it or not. I went to school for clinical psychology. And one of my first positions was at a group home for foster kids. And I was working with LGBT youth that were from anywhere from South LA to San Fernando Valley. Not the best of the young people, but I loved them so much. And I remember one of the moments where my career really shifted is when I realized that your network is more powerful than even your net worth. Now, that job, I was only getting paid like $40,000 a year, Desmond. That's it, right? But I was able to really impact a lot of people and build a lot of relationships because there was only one of me out of all the group homes that were in Los Angeles. So I remember I got a call from one of my colleagues and they said, yo, it's this dope position at UCLA. You should apply for it. It was an assistant director position in higher education. Assistant director. Do normally people step on a college campus and start there, Desmond? I mean, you've been in the field, right? Normally not, right? So I was scared. I was like, apply for a director role. I never even thought about working at a college campus. So I applied for the role. The person that hit me up was my homie. They put me on. I got the interview. I had to show up and show out. But even at that interview, did I do a standard presentation? No. I went in and did spoken word and got an assistant director job at an LGBT center, my first job at a college campus, right? So a unicorn of an experience. So I say that to say that I was the first one at that LGBT center for the foster care youth. I was the first one assistant director at that role. The next role I went to at one of the top medical schools in the world, UCSF, I was the first there, equity inclusion manager. So you begin to see in your journey as you grow as a professional, but just as a human being, what is your role in life? My role in life is to always be the first and to show other people how to go forward with it. So when it came to entrepreneurship and creating a film and creating a book, I had nobody to go to. I was just like, yo, I'm always the first. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it well. And then I'm going to coach others to be able to do it without making some of the mistakes that I had to make, in the past. So it's been a pleasure and the journey has been really cool. And I always say that I'm blessed, but I also think that, you get spiritual here, don't you? This is spiritual. I can get spiritual. Yeah. I always say that I think God planted me here on earth to do things first, to do it scared, to create more space for others.
Hey family, it's Des. I had to pause the conversation for a second because I needed to ask you a quick question. How confident are you that you will eventually reach your goals? Now, don't lie to me. I'm asking on a scale of 1 to 10. 10 being, Desmond, I have a plan and strategy and I'm constantly working towards that, so I know I'll hit it eventually. And 0 being, Desmond, I don't even know where to begin. Matter of fact, let's take this a step further. If somebody was willing to invest $1 million into whatever your dream, whatever your goal is, but it was predicated on the fact that you had some type of plan, some type of vision, some type of strategy, would you get that money right now? Don't lie to me. You might be saying, Desmond, I know I wouldn't get that money because I don't even have a plan. I don't even know where to begin. And if that's you, I think I might have something special for you. I will be doing a free webinar. I'm going to teach people how they can create a brand, create vision and strategy for their life, for their profession, for the goals that they want to hit. And they're going to build it around their values. It's totally free. It'll be a great tool to help you propel into whatever you want to do next. And all you got to do is click the link that should be showing up somewhere on the screen. Or if you're listening via podcast, just click the link in the description. I'll see you there. I like that because you said something about you were the one of one, right? It was just you.
Yep.
And then you took that you were the one of one and then jumped to I'm usually the first, and I can kind of tell by my journey. And what I think is really interesting is I think for us in our journey and in our walk, like you're saying, if we pay attention to the patterns, right? It's just like if we're driving and you start going down a familiar road, after you get more familiar, you don't even look at the GPS. You start seeing the certain signs. Oh, here's the McDonald's here. Okay, I'm gonna make the left at the Waffle House over here. Oh, there goes the one fire hydrant that never seems to work. All right. And you find those things and you're able to navigate. And what I'm hearing from you is there is this ability to realize that my life has been marked by being the first. And so usually if you're the first, that's kind of that's green flag number 1. Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's really interesting. So then how do you get into that space of being comfortable with knowing that you're the first?
I'm still working on that. I think for me, it's really not about ever getting comfortable. I don't want to get comfortable, to be honest with you. Like comfortability scares me and it makes me feel like I'm going to be stagnant. So I don't really get comfortable in that positionality. I just sit in gratitude. And I also know when I'm afraid to do something that I need to do it. Like I can't let fear, stop me from that. But what I will say is, being the first in a lot of those positions, especially in a corporate environment like higher education. And y'all, I mentioned top medical schools because I really want y'all to know what's at stake there. A lot of those places were not built for me or Desmond or folks who look like us. So oftentimes I had to deal with bureaucracy. I had to deal with negotiation. I had to deal with challenges. So then on the back end, now that I'm an entrepreneur and I have to go into rooms and advocate for high budgets or get on calls with clients like you and push you all past your imposter syndrome, I'm able to have a lot of conversations because of my experience. And being the first meant that I got a password and a laptop when the people who came behind me got a notebook full of information, right? So it made me just a really good information gatherer, and I appreciate it. Like, it really has given me a phenomenal experience. So I don't get comfortable in it. I just kind of accept it. And when things come up and they're like, no one's ever been in this role before, or we've never had anyone do this before, I'm always prepared for those conversations and able to prove to people the act of inspiration, which is what you mentioned. Because really, to be able to negotiate people or organizations to do something they've never done before, you have to be able to inspire them because they're fearful, they're scared. What if this doesn't work? What if I waste all my damn money on you as a trainer, as a DEI practitioner, and then I got to go back to my boss and their boss and it doesn't work out for us? So it's really helped me, to be able to do all of those roles.
Wow. So you're saying when you go in through that, and first off, real quick, you said something about the power of going through something, especially when you're the first and gathering that experience. And I think you're so right, because when we're willing to take on new experiences and we get the experience, if we're good stewards of that experience, eventually, no, you didn't say experience. No, you didn't say
knowledge.
Experience. Yeah, it turns into expertise, right? Mm-hmm. Experience turns into expertise, and I think that's really powerful. So for our folk who might be listening, and maybe they're kind of, and I just want to touch on this for a little bit before we transition. What were some things, whether it's maybe a framework, sort of maybe your go-to, if you have like a go-to list of things that you do whenever you're going into something and you hear those words, we've never had something like this before. You're the first. Yeah. What clicks in your mind, and what are the steps that you do when you know that you're going to be the first?
Framework. Let me think if there's actually a framework. So first thing, Desmond, is oftentimes I call bullshit. That's what I'll say. And I hope we can curse because we got spiritual, y'all. We got spiritual. So I'm going to let y'all, I'm from South Central, y'all. So I get spiritual in the hood real quick. But most of the time it's not the first. It's just the first time that they seen someone like me do it. Like that's sometimes really what the first is. Like most of these organizations have been around 100 of years. Y'all done had a conversation about your racism before. Y'all done had a conversation about the homophobia. Y'all done had a conversation about that gender inclusive restroom that just needs to be put a sign on there because there's only one person that can use it anyways. Y'all done had this conversation, but y'all have never had it come from me, right? So for me, it's about normalizing that it's not the first. So usually I'll ask, well, maybe it's the first time you worked with someone like me or a DEI practitioner, but what other trainers and developers have you worked with? Because then they're able to think about, oh, okay, well, we had Sean, we had Ken, we had this other person that came in. What was important about those benchmarks? What was important about the external report that they did? What do your bosses need to see from me? And how do I over deliver? So I go into the space being very inquisitive and curious because I want to know what's at stake for them. And then I can have fun with the rest of it, right? Like if I go into an environment, let's say I'm on a call with a client potentially, and they're like, yo, we really want you to come in and do a training on pronouns, right? Because we're having some issues at our organization. And I'm like, okay, cool. Well, who's going to be there? Number one. I want to know, is it students, is it staff, faculty? Is it the whole board? Great. Who is having the most challenge with this, right? Because then when I'm doing the training and I'm putting people in breakout rooms or I'm deciding how I'm going to put it together, I'm going to put that person in a particular space so they're comfortable, but they're also challenged. And then I can have fun with it as a curator of that experience and decide when I'm going to throw my little jabs in there and be a little bit more creative, or when I'm going to, what stories am I going to share to really turn on that heartstring in the way that I want to. So I look at the whole experience, y'all, as a way to curate for people. And I think that sometimes what makes me upset and challenges me is that some trainers and some educators are lazy. And they take some of the knowledge that I even put out there. I'll tell y'all to Beyonce it every day, right? Get one training and do it over and over again. But that doesn't mean that you don't take a little bit of time to curate it to make sure that the experience works for that organization or that group. So people get lazy and then they just give everything and the same thing to everyone else. And that's the power of being a speaker and a consultant. We can curate, we can create stories, we can create an environment. So why not use that magic to be able to do it? So my framework would be, because I'm making it up in real time as we talk, right? Lead with curiosity, number one. Number two, be willing to pull from your expertise from the past. That's what we call the Beyonce method. So maybe you already have a training that you've done because you're going to over deliver that, and always ask for feedback. That would be the last thing that I didn't go over, because feedback, number one, allows you to get better, but also allows the organization to see that you care, and you should care. You should want to know how you could get better in the future.
That's fire. Okay. I like that. So the creativity, the pulling from your past experiences, and gathering feedback so that you can better it. Did I hit those? Okay.
Yep, you did.
I like that.
Put it on the tip sheet and make sure you include my name, okay? Put
that
on
is
lead
a fact.
magnet,
There
but
will
just
be a
include
tip
my
sheet
name
in the description below. But that is, but what I find really fascinating with what you just said is that at the very beginning, you said when you come in, and for our audience, when you're the one and you're like, oh, they've never had this before, I'm the first. You're partially right and partially wrong, because they've probably had something similar. They just never had your spin. And that's where you're the first. And I think that is such a good point. And I think that goes back to this importance of having a clear understanding of who you are, having that mindfulness and that sense of self of like, okay, what is your expertise? What is not your expertise? Where, with you in the program that I'm a part of, shout out to Speaking for Profit. One of the things you have us do one of the things you have us do is make sure that we're speaking in integrity, right? You always ask us, okay, is this topic that you're covering, can you talk about this with integrity? AKA, are you as darn close to an expert on this as possible, and you're not just, just making stuff up and pulling stuff out of thin air. And I think that's so important. And the only way we can be successful with that is if we're actually being mindful, having an understanding of ourselves, having an understanding of where we are at in a particular topic, and then tying it to your next part, which was putting people in a space where they're comfortable, but they're still learning, right? In my kind of day-to-day role when we're educating, one of the things we call it is it's called the zone, the learning zone of optimal development, where it's just outside your comfort zone, but not too much, right? So it's like that riding a bike and you take the training wheels off and I'm still holding you. Don't worry, like my little daughter Joy, when she gets her bike, right? And she's gone the little thing with the training wheels. Eventually we take it off. I'm still holding you. It's a little scary, but that's that spot where it's uncomfortable, but we're learning. And I think as for our audience, whether you're starting a new job, whether you're an entrepreneur or a coach, getting people out of their comfort zone, right, without them necessarily drowning. If you can find that sweet spot, you will always be the one who's delivering great content and really making an impact. And so, Coach E, I thank you for that. That was fire. That was fire.
No problem. No problem. Take it with you, right? And I think that, we're talking about it, right, Desmond, from an organizational viewpoint, if you're a consultant or a speaker going in, but even as a content creator, right, which you and I are, making sure that we take the time to ask our audience what they need, and then creating content that actually supports them is a part of that process as well. And then even having a process for them to give us feedback. Do you like it? So I think this could be used in various parts of our work. And we should always include the people that we're hoping to impact in the conversation instead of talking down to people. I really don't like when people do that. I think you could be an expert and you could still meet people where they're at. So thanks for bringing that back around.
Heck yeah. Oh, my bad. I'm still recording, but my editor's going to edit this anyway. I just found out that there's a place where you can mark when something fire is said. So when you go back and scrub through, you can. So
that's dope.
That's
good to
right?
know.
Jean Paul, have fun editing this because I am not going to make it easy for you. So I want to I want to jump back in. So you kind of mentioned this idea of mindfulness and the importance of being mindfulness and possessing mindfulness. And I think it kind of makes me want to jump to really what I wanted to talk with you about. With all that you do, right? We've named everything. You've given us more detail on the different spaces and places and how you haven't done just a lot. You've put yourself in situations where you were the first to do something or you were the first in that space. How do you not get burnt out doing something like that? Like, I know in our society right now, we're talking about like, it's always, oh, I'm on my grind, hustle culture, right? Gary Vee and all of them. And that's all well and
Shouts out to
good.
Nipsey Hussle. Shouts out.
That's a fact, right? R.I.P. to the late great Nipsey Hussle, right? And this idea of like even running the marathon, right? And that's cool. But when I think about me, I'm like, hey, I'm married, I got a kid, I just turned 30, I'm still in school. Like, I get burnt out. So like how can I get to that level of productivity where I can get to where you are being well over a six-figure entrepreneur who has their hands in so many other things and being successful in so many other things and not get burnt out and just quit?
Whew, you said a lot right there. Number one,
Yeah.
shouts out to Joy making you a daddy. That's a big deal. So put family
Yeah.
first, always, right? Um, what I will say is I'm a recovering burnoutaholic.
Explain.
I burnt out so many times and didn't even know I was burning because I'm going to put it this way. I came from an environment where everyone had more than one job growing up. My dad had two jobs, my mom had two jobs, my granny had a job, and then she did home health care. I think everybody, most people in my family probably have a job in a business or some kind of hustle. So I also learned through my 23andMe that I got Jamaican in me. So maybe it's something in there. You know, they say Jamaicans work a lot. So I really
Shout out
spent a
to the
lot of
Jamaicans.
time, right, exactly. Shouts out to 23andMe. So I spent a lot of time, Desmond, actually burning myself out and not being aware of it. And then when I met my wife, that's why I said family first. She got to me, it was like, yo, you work too much. Everything is about work. Like, when is it about something else, right? And it came to a really like important part of our relationship where she was like, I don't like it. I don't like you being like this. So I had to figure out, like, how do I do this without, number one, not just burning out? Because I don't know when I'm burnt out until I'm like on the couch laid out and I can't move. I literally don't have a register for it. I could just work, and I'll be up all night and don't even know what time it is, right? Because I get into it. So, how do I measure that so that I can have time to be a great partner, have time to be a great friend? And what I figured out is that you can't do everything at one time, right? So, I remember, and this is a big moment, I was writing my first book, my poetry collection, Sir, poetry dedicated to boyhood and Black queer love. If y'all want to go pick it up. And I was at this point where I wanted to write the book and I wanted to do something else. I still can't tell you what the other project is. I don't remember. My wife told me, you got to pick one. That was the first time that I decided to focus on one project. That book has sold thousands of copies. I have presented it around the world at this point. But I had to focus on one thing. So for me, I go into the year as an entrepreneur, all these things that I have my hands in, Desmond, they're just like planting seeds. But the main goal is for me to get financially free and for me to help at least 5,000 folks just like you secure the bag and understand speaking and consulting. If it does not hit those two goals, it does not belong on the plate of Evolve. I have to go put it on the
Mm,
other plate, the later on plate,
mm,
the take home plate. It ain't on this
yeah.
plate because it's just no way to do it all. So oftentimes what happens is people see entrepreneurs and they see them everywhere. So they assume that they're doing a lot. When really is what they got is a damn good system. So for folks who are listening, what I want you to think about, and for you as well, Desmond, and we'll talk about this at our next coaching call. What are the top two things that you want to do, not this year, but in your business and in your brand. What is the longer term goal and vision? Then map yourself backwards, right? If it's going to take you 20 years, map it back. What are the key things that you need to be doing at all times to make sure that that's happening, and silence everything else? If you do that, you won't burn out, because you're going to have to say no to a whole lot of things, right? That new little software that someone just told you about that you want to learn about and take a course about, is that really helping whatever your bigger goal is?
Yeah.
Right? That conference that you want to attend because you've seen that one person on that Instagram ad and they got a cool bow tie and you think it's going to be fun. But is it really the thing that's going to support your business and where you're trying to go? So I always ask myself that before I make decisions. And that has helped me a lot. And then the second thing that I'll share is data. Data is so important when it comes to your business. So knowing the ins and outs of that have really helped me to make decisions. So I looked at my data last year, and the majority of people who found me, they found me on YouTube. So I'm doubling down on YouTube this year, right? Now, I'm going to do some stuff on Instagram, but it's really going to be to fuel the YouTube, because I didn't really get a lot of clients from YouTube last year. LinkedIn was my best friend. I'm going to double down on LinkedIn and spend more time there. So if we look at our data and see where our attention is actually monetizing, that's another way to prevent burnout, because oftentimes we want to do it all because naturally we're humans and we're domesticated and we want attention. So anytime somebody presses like, we feel like we're getting attention. But like I tell everybody, likes don't pay no bills. And I got a lot of posts that don't have likes, but then the DMs are blowing up, right? And that's when I know I'm really doing the work. So maybe vanity is not showing me that, right? But as long as the money's coming in, I feel good about my business and the way I'm growing it.
Avoiding those vanity metrics and trying to get to the main points. Excuse me. You said that with the best way to avoid burnout is to kind of really kind of narrow your focus on what you want to accomplish and get done with your personal life and your own brand, not just what you want to get done in the week. But kind of what I gather when you say what you said is, if I'm focusing on this is the singular thing I am trying to do, there's one or two things that I'm trying to do. For most of us, probably one, right? Because two just might be too much. And then from that, building your yearly, monthly, weekly plan that way, and building everything else around that. And so I think that's powerful. And then you married that with talking about data. Now, Coach, I don't know about you, but when people talk about data, I nod my head and I'm like, yeah, data is important. But for our folk like me who are like, yeah, data is important, what data? Right? Like how do you find like what data are we talking about? If I'm a content creator or if I'm a business person, like you mentioned vanity metrics and knowing the difference between that and impactful data. Could you kind of just give us a little bit on what you mean by that?
Definitely. So when I think about data, because of the business that I'm in, right? Speaker, consultant, coach, most of the money that comes in from my business is based off of clients, right? Now we do have some other money. Shouts out. We got a grant this year, right, from the Trans Justice Fund, which is dope. So we got our first grant. They funded us last year, I think 7,500. They're going to fund us again this year. So that's great. That's coming in. We got some affiliate marketing, right? Like by putting links there that say, hey, click here if you like it. Cool. Money comes in from that. But the majority of the money comes in from clients. So I'm always thinking about, what is my customer's journey and how do I make it less confusing for them? And that's the number one data that I look at, right? So I think to myself, okay, this person clicks this video right here with me and Desmond. What's the best offering for me to give them so that they can start off the journey feeling supported by me and build enough trust so that when we do work together, because most likely we will, we start that off in a really positive way. And I'm able to help them create change in their life and their business. I love when I'm able to create change and help people without them even paying me. That's even better. People hit me up all the time. Yo, I seen this free training. I did what you said and I got a $10,000 speaking opportunity. Dope. Cool. You didn't even have to pay the bag. Cool. That's dope. Right. But I'm thinking about the client journey. So for me, when I was looking at it for the new year, I looked at, where did the majority of my leads come from? And I could look at that on the back end of my website. All of you can, right? Did it come from Facebook, Instagram? Did it come from a random event that I did. Where did these folks come from? Where did they start? And then where do they fall off my email list? Is it the time when I was blasting during Black Friday and they got tired of it? Cool. Right? Is it that they fell off during a certain email sequence? Is it that they fell off because I wasn't as consistent? So I look at those gaps as well. And then I look at my success stories. Who are my clients who've done really, really well? What was their whole journey? And what are ways that I could either emulate that or find more clients that are just like them? And where do they hang out? So if I know I got a bunch of clients that have hung out on LinkedIn, that's why I said I'm doubling down on LinkedIn, because the majority of the people who've been successful through my client journey have come from that space. So those are the optics that I look at. Now, it just depends on the business that you have. We might have some folks here who aren't business owners. Maybe you're in C-suite or you're a board member, and maybe you need to really look at your retention. Like, how are you retaining your talent? When are they leaving the workforce? Is it year one or year two? Is it year two because they get a promotion, but it's not the one that they want, right? They get that 10%, but they leave you for a company that gives them 30%. Can you put some incentive there to keep those people? So I think it really just depends on what our end goal is and what marketplace we're in, but we always should be looking at the journey of our primary clients and ways that we can support them to do better and ultimately to become success stories.
I like that. Okay. So then ditching kind of the vanity and seeing what the best way I could summarize what you're saying and how I'm hearing it is look for where the impact is.
Yeah. Exactly.
Where is their impact exchange happening? And
Exactly.
not just like
and not just that they bought something from you, because a lot of people, that's where the client journey ends for them, right? And for some people, they don't have products that really matter, right? Like if you just got a t-shirt, cool, t-shirt gets to you, I'm done. But would you want to know if the t-shirt shrunk? Would you want to know if the t-shirt actually lasted? Are they still wearing the t-shirt 2 years later? Is that why they haven't bought a new one? Right? So I get into it deep, right? But you have to want to know that. And for some people, for $20 t-shirts, it's not worth it. When I'm working with you and my clients, right? Like y'all are part of my life now. Like I get to see Joy grow up. So you doing well or not, it's important to me. It's not just like, oh, Desmond paid me the money, I hope Desmond's good. No, I want Desmond to be amazing because I want Desmond to get financially free. That is why he's here and speaking for profit. And anything that stops that, I need to help Desmond get that out of the way. And anything that brings that closer, I need to bring that to him so that he could be successful.
I love that. That is data. That's the data we're looking for. Okay. That's so cool. So during this process, and like you said, this wasn't something that you've kind of learned from the get-go. It's something that's kind of taken time. What were some things for our folk who are just getting started? What would be something that you would recommend in terms of, I don't want to say proactive, but proactive in addition to like picking the one thing? What are some checks and balances that you would recommend to somebody who's new, whether they're starting an entrepreneurship, whether they're going into content creation? I keep forgetting that this thing does that every single time. I keep forgetting.
I was like, it scared me low key. I was like, what is that? was not expecting it. I was trying not to appear startled, but that was a little scary. Don't put your thumb up in
Apple, I need y'all to figure this out. This is like the fifth time. The last podcast, it like went dark, and then it was just a bunch of fireworks. And I forgot who I was. I think I was interviewing my brother Jared, and he just hit the deck. Like it was bad. So my bad. Focusing back, new entrepreneurs, or they're a new content creator, or they're starting a new job, and they want to be proactive, and they're like, okay, cool, Coach Evolve, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna focus on one thing, and I'll build everything kind of around that one thing. What other checks and balances would you recommend so that they don't obsess? Or better yet, here, because you're from LA, we're both Kobe fans, right? Mamba Mentality. We love it. It's great. But how can somebody Mamba Mentality in a healthy way?
So I want to say one thing and then I'll get to that. We talked a little bit about burnout, right? And we talked about focusing. The one thing I didn't include, Desmond, is the importance of your own self care regimen, right? Like you've got to have self care in there. And a lot of people think self care is like going to some hotel, taking your spouse out, avoiding yourself. Self care is actually doing the things that you're with yourself that feel uncomfortable, resting, taking a break,
Yeah.
sitting there reading a book without screen time, going to an event or something by yourself without your partner and kid and family, a time when it's just focused on you. That's really what it's about, right? So, in Speaking for Profit, we talk about CEO days. When I talk with y'all about
Yeah.
CEO days, yes, it's a day for you to look at your data and your numbers and all of that. But one of your CEO days should just be about fueling the CEO. What are the things that you need to keep going and to take care of yourself? Often I think that entrepreneurs wait until they are burnt out to start implying self-care and it's already too late. Instead, what I would suggest, if you know that you get really busy and you get tired about 6 weeks into the year, go on and add that self-care day about 4 weeks into it. Every 4 weeks, you should have something there to be able to take care of yourself, because then it's more of a preventive instead of a reactionary to what's going on with you, right? Which is really important. So do what you need to do, y'all, but don't avoid yourself and your self-care. That's the big thing that I want folks to really focus on in 2024. I see a lot of folks saying they in Vegas, they party, and they're numbing and they're calling that self-care, when really the self-care should really be about us like connecting to ourselves and to our spirits and asking some of those intuitive questions that you're asking me today. Like, how do I stop burning out? Sometimes you got to sit with spirit and ask that question, and spirit will be like, you know what? You need to go get a massage. You need to get a foot rub. Actually, you need to actually not get up at 5 a.m. That's what's burning you out. You need to get up at 7. You just need 2 more hours of sleep, sweetie. Right? And the ancestors will come through and tell you that. So I just wanted to give you that tip because it came to mind. Mamba Mentality. Shouts out to Kobe Bryant, y'all. The legend, RIP. So many great legends live and die in LA. Shouts out to Tupac for creating that great song. Mamba Mentality. This is my question for you, Desmond, and then I'll answer the question. Why do we think Mamba Mentality was so unhealthy? Because I've heard a lot of people reference the Mamba mentality as something that's unhealthy. And I don't resonate it with that same way, but you tell me why you believe that it's unhealthy.
Okay. So I first have to admit that I do think it's unhealthy. And in that I have to admit the fact that I still want to be good at it. It is so toxic of me to admit, right? It's like one of those. It's like, I don't know. It's just one of those terrible things to admit. Like, oh, this is so toxic to me, but dang, I really want to be good at it. And so I think why I think it's unhealthy is when I hear the stories, right? When I see the documentaries and the discussions, and again, albeit I will admit these are people's perspective on what they observed from Kobe, right? But one of the words we hear is always like, yo, he was psychotic about it. And I'm just like, I don't know if I want to be psychotic about something, right? Like the most that I ever want to be obsessed with is is Jesus and my wife. I don't know if I want to be psychotic about anything else. It's just like, I don't know. I don't know. But the results speak for themselves, but it's just, I don't know. Maybe I need a reframe in how I think about that. But when I think of Mamba mentality, I think of it being effective, but I think of it being unhealthy, Coach.
Well, I kind of see it this way. The way you do one thing is the way you do everything. Have you heard that quote?
Okay. Yeah.
Right? So what we do eventually learn about the late great Kobe Bryant is that yes, he was obsessed with basketball. He woke up, he didn't get enough sleep. That's probably why he didn't last as long on the court. But do you know why he didn't get enough sleep? Because he was as obsessed with his family as he was with basketball. He was obsessed with his relationship with God. Even the day he died, he was in mass like at 7 or 6 before that with his daughter. to be there. And they said he was there every day that he had a game. He made it to church. You get what I'm saying? So he was not just Mamba Mentality the National Basketball Association. It was his way of life. He was obsessed with showing up and being the greatest version of himself. And when I think about it, maybe his spirit knew that he only had that amount of time.
Okay.
That's kind of scary to think about, but I thought about it. Like, it's almost like he was running like he was out of time. Like he knew he was going to be out of time. Like he knew he was going to leave early. So maybe that's the way his, spirit set him up to live life. That's a deeper, more existential thought, as they call it. But for me, the way that we achieve Mamba mentality, Kobe talks about it in his book. It's your own version of your greatness. It's the discipline and the things that you say you're going to do and you actually doing them. Kobe did stuff because he said he was going to do it. He was up working out when everybody was at the club. I would have been at the club personally if I was an NBA player. I'm going to be honest with you. I like partying. I'm a Leo. I like a little, ooh. Beautiful women too. Oh, yeah. I'm going to be at the club. I wouldn't have been up with Kobe. I wouldn't have been up with him. No. But he said that to himself, so he did it. What I see him great at that I want to work on and that I hope that all entrepreneurs can work on is when we say we're going to do something to ourselves, that we actually do it. That's what he was really good at. He made a crazy training document and he actually did it. How many of us write down workouts and then we're like, bruh, 2 weeks in, what was I thinking? Actually, let me go and take off that back exercise because my back be hurting every week. I'm not doing that no more. Or you make your little New Year meal plan. Oh, I said I wasn't gonna eat cheese, but y'all, they're having a taco fest. I'm just gonna do it this 1 week. So we make these obsessions when it comes to ourselves, and he didn't do that. So that's what I'm working on when I think about Mamba mentality. It's not about the grind. It's about your grind. And you decide that. You can decide for yourself, I'm going to post one YouTube video a week, or you could say I'm going to do it every day. But how do you cultivate that self-discipline for yourself? And what does that really look like? That's the Mamba mentality. Okay. And a lot of people, especially a lot of masculine folks, let's just put it out there, will show up for family. They'll show up for their spouse. They'll show up for everybody, but then the things that they secretly say that they're going to do, they don't do them. And I think that that's what Kobe was trying to push us past is like, yo, if you say you're going to do it, then do it and do it well. Don't do it half-ass.
I like that. So showing up and giving your best performance in all things and not just being like, oh, and like you said, even with like the masculine part, right? This idea of I need to show up and be the hero for everybody, but you don't want to show up and be the hero in your own life.
No. You don't want to show up for yourself.
Why do you think that is? Why, whether we're talking about it being mainly a masculine thing or whatever, why do you think for people who have a tendency where if you need to depend on them, they will be there. But if we look behind closed doors, they struggle to show up for themselves. Why do you think that is?
Well, right now I'm reading The 4 Agreements. Have you read that book? Yeah.
Mm-mm.
Okay. So in the book, in the beginning, I'm in the first 20 pages. I've read it before though, but they talk about how we're all domesticated, right? Which means when you're born, you have a language, you have rules, you have regulations, and you have to pretty much consent to them. It's your act of survival, right? You got to learn English because that's what they speak it in your household. And you're going to have to tell mama, dada that you hungry eventually, right? Like, so we're all domesticated. So we are programmed from a young age to be people pleasers. I need to do right so that I can get what I want. When I do things wrong, I get punished. So all of our life, we're kind of attracted to giving attention to other things. We're not really taught to love ourselves in that same way. And that's everyone. That's not masculine, feminine, none of that in between. It's everyone, right? So we have to master it. And I think as we get older, Desmond, and at least for me, right, I'm going to speak for myself, as I get older and I connect more to spirit, spirit is telling me that I cannot survive without paying attention to myself more. Things will come up in my body. I'll get sick. I'll get a flu. I get burnt out. You know, some of my homies got diabetes, right? All these things that are popping up because we're not paying attention to ourselves enough. So I think it just starts
Mm.
from the way that society has kind of like positioned us, right? And there's other societies where, yes, community is important, but they talk about coming from an overflowing cup, right? Like starting from that, not starting from something that's like halfway there. And you could still be community driven and want to take care of yourself. Actually, you're more community driven when you want to take care of yourself because you're saying, I'm going to make sure that my body is together. I'm going to make sure that my spirit is together so I can show up for joy, so I can show up for my wife, not just this year, but for many years. That's when we start to talk about longevity, right? Which is really important.
Mm.
So I think that's where it comes from. I mean, I'm just mentioning that book, but as I'm doing more spiritual practice with myself, I'm like, why is it that I can get on a call with Desmond right now and do this podcast and show up? But sometimes when I got to do it for myself, I'm lazy and I play the video game or, you know, or avoid it, right? I'm not, I'll fly through a calendar time for Evolve to shoot their one-on-one podcast and say, I'm going to do it next week. But damn sure I wasn't going to be late here today. And what does that really mean about me and my own commitment to myself?
Mm. Wow. I think that first off, yes. Second off, I think we're we're getting into a discussion where in this burnout piece, right? In this, whether we're talking about life, whether we're talking about entrepreneurship, content creation, we do things with the mindset and with the perspective of our audience, right? That's one of the key things we talk
Mm-hmm.
about in business. Who's your target audience? Who is your in YouTube space, we talk about who's your ideal viewer. You need to create content with your ideal viewer in mind. And I think we're really good at that. And like you're saying, we have a hard time showing up in that space for ourselves. And so I think it lends to the question then, is it because we don't have a good understanding of ourselves?
Yeah, that's really what it be. We don't know who we are, and we're afraid to see even more of that, I think sometimes. But I love you're in deeper than the brand, right?
Mm-hmm.
Nikki and folks, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they talk about content from a different lens, which I appreciate. Nikki, shouts out to Nikki, man, just a
That's
phenomenal
a fact.
person. But Nikki talks about the pay method. Have you heard of that?
I
Right?
don't remember that,
When
no.
you're creating content. So she talks about pay, platform, audience, and you. She always talks about how you've got to be in there, right? The platform, it might be LinkedIn. So, okay, LinkedIn likes more long text, or it might be YouTube. Cool. I'm going to do long form and I'm going to do some short form videos, right? The audience, thinking about your audience, the A, great. We got our audience. Cool. We know them. We know what they want. We know what they like, but always making sure that the why is there, which is you. And if you don't, then you'll end up very, very much a depressed content creator because all you're doing is creating this stuff for other people. And I think the part that's beautiful, Desmond, and I'm hope that you've been able to see that as you're building your YouTube, is that we get to discover more of ourselves every time we do a video. Right? I know I'm gonna go back to this and be like, "Whoa, you said that?" Right? Because this is a version of myself right here, but the version of myself when this interview drops is going to be in a whole different type of place. So the
Facts.
process of creating content allows us, if we allow it to definitely get to know ourselves more. And it's a constant investigation. And that's what I enjoy about it. I don't think we ever will like truly just know everything. Like being a student of the art of the work is great, but being a student of yourself is going to be phenomenal. And I guess you could add that to the list on how to prevent burnout, right? Like, because
Mm-hmm.
if you don't know you're burnt out, like I told you, I'm a recovering one. I didn't even know I was burnt. I was just being a jerk at the house, and my wife was like, "Yo, you tired, right?" And I'm like, "Nah, I could keep going. Let's go, right?" Mamba mentality,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like, nah, you need to cut this out. You're being an asshole, right? And then I was like, "Oh, okay, I get it. When I'm burnt out, I'm stressed. I'm snappy. I'm not as patient, right?" Then I got to see because for other people, They're telling me, oh, when I'm burnt out, I get tired, I get sick, I'm like, I don't have that experience, but what does that look like for me? Then you're able to see it, and then you're able to become better.
Ooh, I like that. You just said other people, when they get burnt out, they say, I'm tired, I'm sick, I feel crappy. And you're like, oh, I don't feel that way, so I must be fine. And it took you some time to realize what burnout, come on, what burnout looks like for you, right? And understanding that. And again, it goes back to what you're saying, this importance of understanding yourself. And I think also what you said is, as I've gone through the process of content creation, as I've gone through the process of, right, growing up being a preacher's kid and being a Christian and even doing sermons and looking at some of my sermons when I was a kid and I didn't really know anything compared to what I know now, of just like, got it. I know more about myself now, right? Now, like back then I'm preaching about, oh, when you get grounded and you can't play Madden, you gotta know that God will make a way. And
Yes,
and
praise him.
now
I just gonna go
right?
there with you, you know.
I love it. I love it. But it's the process of your worldview is is informed by your experience thus far. And if you don't take the time to grow that, if you don't take the time to learn, if you don't, just as much time as you're spending learning, studying, being cerebral about your audience, your market, you have to give just as much, if maybe not more, to yourself,
Yep.
right? Because the more you understand yourself, the more you'll understand even when to deliver things. And
Yeah.
so, yeah. Hmm.
And the
Wow.
more you understand your larger vision, right? Because I don't know if I told you this Desmond, and I don't think I did because we haven't talked in the new year. But my new vision, right? First, it was like I just want to help 5,000 diverse leaders get the bag. That was the first vision. Now I'm like, yo, I can really make money at this. What does it look like to make $1 million of revenue? Great. Bottom line purpose. Then what does it look like to invest $1 million of revenue? Oh, that's really dope. But what does it look like to give away $1 million? That's my new vision, right? And as I become more comfortable with who I am and the responsibility that I hold for myself, my clients, and all of you, it becomes clear of what the vision is. A lot of us have some flat ass, like boring visions. I just want a new car. No offense to anyone who needs a new car, but I'm just saying, like,
Mm-hmm.
when you start to really think about, like, how can you utilize your skill set and your magic to impact and influence the world? Because when I get my million, it's going to some things that's going to change the world, change the cycle of
Mm-hmm.
things, right? Break
Mm.
some
Yeah.
ancestral trauma that is happening in the world. That's when it really, really starts to push you. And you have to have that clarity. And you're not going to have that clarity sitting up here watching Gary Vee all day. Shouts out to Gary Vee, no offense. But that's not going
Mm-hmm.
to get you closer to understanding who you are and what you're here on this planet to do. And this
Mm.
voice, this mic, this content is just a vehicle to get you there.
Mm. That is so good. And I think that's a clear distinction. And I love how you put that. And I think for a lot of us, we have to get into the habit of being intentional, of properly defining and properly differentiating the vehicle to the purpose and the purpose. Because if we're
Mm,
not careful, we can make the vehicle to the purpose, and we think, oh, this vehicle, this is what I'm doing, and it's like, no, like for me, and I had this conversation with Rakita. Shout out to Rakita, and I had this conversation with Coop. Shout out to Coop. One of the things I always talked about was this idea of who I am in my heart, in my makeup, and how I'm wired. I am a connector. I need to connect with people. I need to connect people with other people, and I need to see growth and impact in people's lives. Right?
mm,
I need them to know that they're cared for. I need people to know that somebody sees them and cares about them. Right? And so, regardless of what I do, anyway, whether it's public speaking, whether it's leading a team, whether it's preaching, whether it's making content on YouTube, that's going to be the theme that will thread in everything that I do. right? And so then content creation is no longer then my purpose. It's no longer then my vision. It's just a tool to exercise and execute the vision. And I think what you're saying there is so powerful that I think that we have to, and again, it goes back to y'all, if y'all trying to figure out the key to not burning out, it's getting clear on these things, right? And it very much is a inward out thing and not an outward in thing. And so with what you're saying, that really is striking a chord with me. It's definitely informing what I'm about to be doing in terms of my morning routine now and stuff too, and kind of adjusting some stuff. And so yeah, I love that. Um hmm. I I would love to maybe hear a little bit, if you're willing to go there, with while you are being a recovering burnout burnout
Workaholic. We'll
burnout
just say that. Workaholic.
workaholic. There we go. Okay, I think that's better. That's easier. Sound like I was about to start speaking in tongues. So
Yeah, I don't even know what
with
word I made
recover,
up when I told you. So
I love that. I do. When you were making your six figures, right? Because I wonder with the time we got, I kind of want to go there for a second. While you were making your six figures, were you a workaholic?
um which six figures? I made a lot of, what do you mean?
That first off, flex. I love it.
I didn't even mean to do it then, but yeah, flex on you. Which six figures? Yeah.
Which one are you talking about? This quarter, that
So
quarter?
I definitely feel that this last year, 2023, probably was like the most aligned year, but I also quit my 9 to 5, right? So I was able to focus really on my business. 2022 was a lot better, but it was definitely still more of me overcompensating. So what I mean by that is I was doing too much when it came to clients, right? Like I was pretty much closing deals for y'all. I was doing too much, not too much of what I was being paid for. So in 2023, I had to adjust and say, how do I help my clients get the same results without burning myself out? So every year I get a little bit better with it, but it's my, how do we put this? It's my foundation. So I'm easy to slip back into it. So that's why meditation, prayer, my CEO days are all on this calendar for 2024. Because I know that I can easily get into scarcity and then I get into workaholic. And I could get into it, like I told you, and not feel it. I know myself. I can get into it and be doing it, and I'll be up at midnight and my wife be like, why are you still working? And I snap because I want to. I like work, right? Like I can get into that. So knowing that about myself, I have to put limits on it. And I think that's why it's important to know yourself, right? That's why it's important. So been able to make money doing it and money not doing it. And I'm not going to say that I'm said I'm recovering. Recovery means I can still go back. I ain't healed. And I probably will never be, just because of the way I was raised and my upbringing. And I appreciate that. I appreciate that hustle that LA gave me, that my grandmother gave me, that my father gave me, my mother gave me. But I know that it's not the thing that's going to give me longevity on this earth if I want to live into my 80s and 90s and maybe even 100, right? Which would be really cool.
Yeah.
I've got to practice something that's a little bit different for my own longevity. So I have to set up boundaries. That means after we get off this interview, I would love to keep doing some work. I'm actually really inspired right now. I want to go create some content, but I got to shut this computer down and go spend time with my fam, go spend time with my dogs, do some cuddling so that I can restore myself for tomorrow. Even though in my brain, I'm like, you could work another couple hours, but on your calendar, it says close the laptop. Right? So I have to be disciplined enough to keep up with that. So I think that's a great question. Like, can you make money and still, right? Can you thrive and not burn yourself out? And the answer is yes, but you can't say yes to everything. So you have to become a better decision maker in order to make the money and not burn yourself out. Oftentimes, the reason we make money and we burn ourselves out is because we're not good at making decisions. So what we do, we say yes to everything. The other reason is because we don't have enough faith. our faith is wavering. So we say, you know what? I believe in this podcast. I believe in my show. But then you go and start another show. Because what if it doesn't work out? What happened to the faith? What happened to the faith, my brother? Lean in, have faith, and it'll all work out for you.
That is fire. If you didn't get anything else, I know one thing I just got is I'm definitely about to hop in my calendar and put a close your laptop or store close at a certain time on my calendar, right? To hold myself to, and I'm gonna tag my wife in that. Joy doesn't even have an email. I'm gonna make Joy an email and tag her in that. So if I hear the rattle, right, it's like, yo, bing bing, babe, store's closed. Why are you at the laptop? You right, you all right. I've never thought about that. That is amazing. That is amazing. Real quick, but before we finish up, I wanted to give you the floor of just y'all. If you didn't realize, we just basically had a coaching session, right, for basically an hour, and it was absolutely fire.
Dope.
And so, if people want to work with you, Coach, and they want, and they're like, yo, the way Coach E just communicated and broke this down, I want to be more involved with them, and I want to grow my business. I want to figure out how I can be better in what I'm doing and be the best entrepreneur or content creator. What things do you have to offer, or what products do you have available for our audience that they can take advantage of right now?
Definitely. Great question. Number one, Desmond, I want to shout you out because you're creating an amazing platform where entrepreneurs can be authentic. I don't think I've had a conversation that has been this like spiritually aligned in a while. And I feel very comfortable talking to you. So shouts out to you for being a damn good interviewer. I appreciate it. The way that y'all can, number one, the way y'all can support the work is go follow everything Speaking for Profit. That would be great. What I'm actually doing this year that I haven't done before is I'm opening up my calendar for some one-on-one time with folks. I've never done this. So if you go over to evolvebenton.com, you can actually schedule a one-on-one call with me, get on a coaching call, I can get some support, because what I'm realizing is that everybody is not ready for Speaking for Profit University. Some of y'all just want one call to get one piece of support like me and Desmond talked through today. And that's all you need to take it to the next level. Now, if you're interested in monetizing your speaking and consulting business, you know that you have a message and expertise that can save the world, and also you want to get paid while you do it, you can join me monthly at my 5-day challenge. And you just want to go over to speakingforprofit.com/5-day challenge. And you're going to see a link there. Go on and get registered. You can join us, and we will be happy to have you for 5 days so that you can get some training and development and take your business to the next level.
I love that. I love that. Yo, everybody, I want y'all to show some love to my Speaking for Profit coach, my mentor, Evolve Benton. Y'all, let's show some love.
Whoop whoop. Thank y'all so much for being here. We definitely appreciate you. And y'all are doing some good work. Can I give people a free gift? I'm always trying to give away some gifts. Could that be something? Should we give your audience a gift? You sure?
Yes, please do.
Okay.
Real quick,
cool.
I paused for a second because I had the thing ready that it was supposed to clap and cheer, and it didn't do that, and so that's why it was the awkward silence.
Okay, well, let's do it again. Do it again if you want to get the clap in.
I'm trying to get this. I wanted the cheering and the clapping to happen. Let me see. Hold up.
Shouts out to the editor. I heard it.
Yo, Jean Paul,
that kind of sounded like an arena. I felt like I scored the final basket. I thought that sounded like an arena clap right there. I like that.
That's a fact. That's a fact. Yo, you mentioned something about a gift. I want to hand it over to you. Go ahead.
Yeah, definitely. So for folks who, let's say you are just starting as a speaker or consultant, maybe you're just thinking about it. You do it every day at your job, but you're like, you know what? I don't know if I can really do it. I got a free training for you on how to price yourself as a speaker, right? Just so you can see what money is out there for you and your expertise. All you got to do is text me the word speak to 323-405-9492, 323-405-9492, and I will send that free training over to you because you are a homie, a cousin, a colleague of my boy Desmond, and I want to make sure that I'm able to support you. So you get that for free and get some knowledge, and hopefully that inspires you to know that you can speak for profit. Because sometimes, y'all, I remember when I first started, I was like, speakers don't get paid nothing. What are you talking about? But guarantee when you take that training and you align your expertise and you see where you're at, you're gonna be like, dang, maybe I can make an extra $20,000-$30,000 this year. And imagine how far that can go for you and your family and your financial freedom. So definitely gonna give y'all that for free.
Wow. Yo, that is a dope gift. Look, y'all, please make sure you take advantage of that. Being a part of the program has been tremendously helpful for me. I am closing in on having, when I just started, I'm not even a full year in, and I'm already hitting a five-figure engagement already, thanks to Coach Evolve. And so the stuff is for
Congrats
real,
on
y'all.
that too, fam. I
Thank
can't wait
you.
till we get
Thank you.
multiple, but congrats.
Oh, that's a fact.
Congratulations.
Oh, that's a fact. It's coming. It's coming. It's coming. And
Yes.
I too will be able to be like, well, I've had multiple six figures. Which one are you talking about? Right. I'm gonna definitely be there soon enough. But yo, Coach E, thank you so much for being on. To our inspired family, right? You already know this is the Inspired House. We were just in the burnout room, right? It might have been a burnout, but hopefully you're not burnt out. Hopefully you feel rejuvenated. Hopefully you feel ready to bounce back, and we're going to get up out of this room and get out the house and go impact and inspire other people. So with that said, y'all have a great day. Peace, love, and joy, and we'll see y'all next time. Peace.
Peace.
Not the balloons. Oh my God.